From Afghanistan to Russia, a number of big foreign policy moves are happening this week for the Biden administration. CBS News intelligence and national security reporter Olivia Gazis joins me now to break down the international developments. Welcome. It's good to have you, Olivia. There's a lot to break down. So less than a week after that summit between President Joe Biden and Russian President Vladimir Putin, U.S. officials are preparing more sanctions against Russia after the poisoning of jailed opposition leader Alexei Navalny. What sanctions does the U.S. have in effect against Russia now, and what more is on the table?
So, Elaine, this will be the third round of sanctions that the Biden administration is bringing against Russia for a range of issues, but it's the second package of sanctions that's specific to Alexei Navalny's poisoning and imprisonment. The timing seems conspicuous, coming as it does on the heels of the summit between Putin and Biden last week, but these were actually already mandated by law to occur 3 months after that previous package was issued, and it's specific to Russia's use of chemical weapons, in this case, Novichok against Navalny. So it's not the result of the summit or a function of it, and it's not coming as a surprise to the Russians. They knew this was coming. What we don't know are the timing and the targets of this particular package. All the national security advisor said was that work was still being done to make sure that the administration was, quote, getting the right targets. So what that likely means is firming up the intelligence on whose basis some of the individuals or entities that we assume will have some proximity to Vladimir Putin will ensure that these have some more bite. The Kremlin has registered a note of disappointment, saying that clearly the positive aftermath of the summit is being overshadowed by this U.S. policy of containing Russia. But you can be sure at a minimum that this is irksome to Vladimir Putin, who would deign to utter Navalny's name during his press conference, despite being asked repeatedly about him. We'll see prior rounds have targeted the Russian economy, its sovereign debt. So we'll see just how much bite these sanctions have and how close to Putin they come, which will be the best determinant of how Russia in turn responds.
And the U.S. is joining Canada, the U.K., and the European Union to take actions against dozens of Belarusian officials. Who are these officials, Olivia, and why this action against them?
Right. So what's meaningful about this set of sanctions is that they're backed by multiple Western powers. So they are that much more forceful and potent a condemnation of the Lukashenko regime. They target dozens, 62 Belarusian individuals and 5 entities. They're designed to be very hard-hitting economically, targeting exports like oil and tobacco. They're in response to the politically motivated jailing of journalist Roman Protasevich, who was jailed after that forced diversion of a Ryanair flight last month. But they're also in response to broader crackdowns and repressive actions that have been taken by the Lukashenko regime on civil society since then. It's unwelcome news for Lukashenko because, for one, targeted, wide-ranging economic sanctions are never pleasant, and they're going to hurt Belarus's struggling economy in the first place. But also, they're going to push him closer towards Russia and Vladimir Putin, which is, as you can imagine, an uncomfortable and occasionally dangerous place to be. Until relatively recently, Lukashenko had been an ambivalent bedfellow of Putin. He was occasionally courting Western powers when it was beneficial to him. So this move is very much a way of trying to present Lukashenko with a very hard set of choices, ideally to effect a change in his behavior before things get worse and before Vladimir Putin decides to have him replaced with a more loyal subject.
Interesting. And Afghanistan's President Ashraf Ghani is scheduled to meet President Biden at the White House on Friday. Now, this meeting comes as the U.S. is withdrawing all forces from Afghanistan. What can we expect to come from Friday's meeting?
Well, since the announcement of the military drawdown in Afghanistan, this administration has repeatedly said that it's going to do all it can to ensure that Afghanistan never becomes a safe haven for terrorist groups. Unfortunately, it looks like actions have mostly been limited to rhetoric on that front. There's absolutely no indication that the Taliban is heeding any of those admonitions. It has significantly ramped up its military presence, seized territory all over the country, and relentlessly targeted Afghan military forces. Just this past weekend, the Taliban overran 2 provincial capitals and demanded that government forces there surrender their military equipment. Local officials are saying there's panic in the streets as more and more districts are falling to the Taliban. So this is a very, very bad harbinger for Afghan security forces, whose morale is plummeting as the withdrawal and the drawdown continue. There's no doubt that President Ghani will raise all of this with President Biden. What's less clear is what the administration can or is willing to do at this stage. It's made the announcement, it's committed to a date, it's initiated the withdrawal. It's already effectively said that all it's going to offer from this point is diplomatic and humanitarian assistance, which is not nothing, but it's also not a bulwark against relentless aggression from the Taliban, let alone any potential terrorist groups that might want to step into a security vacuum. So it's hard to see how even a top-level engagement between presidents is going to meaningfully change the situation on the ground there.
Some really difficult challenges, as you just outlined. Well, there are also the Biden administration's efforts to rejoin the 2015 Iran nuclear deal. Former President Trump withdrew from that pact. Where do the U.S. and Iran stand on a new deal?
So there have already been 6 rounds of indirect talks aimed at getting the U.S. and Iran to recommit to the terms of the JCPOA, the nuclear deal in 2015. The 6th round just concluded on Sunday, and it's not yet clear when a 7th round might start, although there is an expectation that there will be a 7th round. The readouts from this last round were pretty positive. Iran's top negotiator has said that the parties are closer than ever to a deal, although there's still work to be done to sort of finish it up. For now, all of the delegations have returned to their respective governments for consultations. There are some questions about whether these nuclear talks are in some trouble. They might be derailed by the Iran new president-elect, Ibrahim Raisi, who is a known hardliner and who, in his very first news conference, already said that he's not going to allow these talks to drag on. But he has also, importantly, promised to abide by a deal. So if one is reached, that's something that we can look out for. And that's something that's only going to happen with the Supreme Leader's agreement, because he's the one who ultimately calls the shots on policy with regard to Iran. So we'll have to see whether there's a deal limited to the nuclear issues and whether the administration will be successful in what it has said is a priority, which is then having a follow-on deal to manage some of Iran's misbehavior and malign behavior in the region. On that front, the president-elect already said that its ballistic missile program and proxy activities are off the table. So there's an indication that those talks may be in some trouble going forward.
All right, Olivia Gazis for us. Olivia, always good to have you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elaine.